Hello and welcome to Box, the football talk show brought to you by Sportology TV with myself, Ali Drew. And the big guests that we are having on the show this week are continuing. Next up, we are joined by a former player for clubs including Spurs, Wolves and Fulham. He's now a pundit and a host on TalkSport. Delighted to be joined by Jamie O'Hara. Jamie, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Obviously, difficult times at the moment, but you are on TalkSport, so work, I guess, is continuing almost as normal for you?
Yeah, I've been really lucky, to be honest. You know, I've been working at TalkSport. I've been still doing the Sky stuff. So I've just got my head down, knuckled down, tried to get as much work as possible, obviously in such difficult times, you know. And yeah, it's been a breath of fresh air, really, to get me out of the house mentally. You know, it's great just to be able to just go into the office, get my work done, and then be able to come home. But I can't imagine how hard it's been for some people, obviously, who just haven't been able to go into the office. And it's made me appreciate work a lot more, that's for sure.
And you did do recently a spell of sort of management at Billericay Town, didn't you, with Paul Konchesky?
Yeah.
And just talk to me about that.
Well, it was an unbelievable experience. I went in there as the assistant manager first when the club had this sort of huge ambition of getting to the league, and then I took over as manager, and then the owner left. So it just changed everything. It was more about putting fires out pretty much for the whole time I was there, cutting the budget to like a quarter of what it was, getting rid of all the quite kind of best players. But I really enjoyed it. It was a weird experience. I mean, completely thrown in the deep end in terms of being a manager. And in the end, it got quite tiresome. You know, I wasn't enjoying it. I think they could see that as well, because it just got to the point where the ambitions of the club had completely changed. They wanted to make it sustainable and a community club, which is great, which is, you know, fantastic, but it wasn't what I kind of signed up for in terms of trying to build an ambitious club to you know, move up the leagues. And so it kind of ended there, and we went our separate ways. And I took a lot from it. I loved it. It was a great experience. But in the end, it kind of got a bit tiring.
And has it given you a taste of potentially wanting to do more manager stuff in the future? Because to me, it seems like the toughest job to do in football.
I mean, it is so tough, and especially, I mean, at that level as well, you're literally doing everything. You know, you're signing the players, you're doing the contracts, you're doing the budgets, you're doing the training, you're doing the fitness. You're literally taking on everything. You know, like it's proper old school sort of, you know, management. And I loved it, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it, but there were times obviously when I was like, it's, you know, it's not like at professional clubs when you've got everyone around you and you've got a lot of things going on. It's and a lot of people with their everyday sort of jobs. It was a lot to deal with, but I mean, I absolutely loved it. I'd definitely love to get into it again, whether that was as a coach or an assistant. And just see what comes up and the right thing. But I feel like I took that on, probably should have left when it all kind of went tits up, stayed, saw it out, and still I felt like we got quite successful in terms of first round FA Cup finals and stuff like that we got to. But the next one I'd make sure it was right. It was, you know, it was run smoothly.
You had a bit more help. Help run.
Yeah, and well, yeah, just help is massive. Like your management staff is key, and getting that right is bang on. That's something I learned massively. The next one I go into have a bit more experience around me in terms of people that have been there and done it, and not. And you got to have a good, really good blend of people, I think, and that's just something I learned. And I think you see that now with a lot of managers who are going into jobs who are young. They get sort of really experienced guys around them, which is so important.
Yeah, because just looking at the sort of management side, obviously we saw Frank Lampard taking the role at Chelsea and then getting sacked. A lot of people say too soon, but then Thomas Tuchel's done very well since.
Yeah.
What do you make of the sort of new management style where clubs, the turnover is very high, they get rid of them as soon as they see a sort of few results
I just think that's just the way football's gone. You know, the philosophy of you know, you come in and being given time to sort of bed in the way you want to play and how you want to do things. If you're not getting results, you get a sack. It's just as simple as that. And you know, it's a hire and fire kind of nature. Especially, I mean, at Chelsea, that's their business module, right? That's just how they do things, and they've been successful doing it. So why are they going to change just because it's Frank Lampard? That's just how they are. Other teams have stuck by their managers like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and it seems that Arsenal are going to do that with Mikel Arteta. And I think you need that time. If you look at Jurgen Klopp, it's probably the perfect example. When he first come in, took him 2 or 3 years to really get the team that he wanted and get them really playing a certain way. And you have to be given time. If you come in and the results aren't going great, then you have to ask questions of, well, is the club, is the team right? Are the players right? Has he got the right setup for what he wants? And if he hasn't, then you need to give that person them tools, to build his team and build his philosophy. I don't understand. I mean, if you come in and have a complete disaster and you look like you don't know what you're doing, that's a different story. But a lot of these managers know what they're doing. They just don't get given the right amount of time to get things going,
Well, we do need to talk about Spurs now. So obviously they're not having the best time at the moment. They lost against West Ham, the London derby at the weekend. And just talk to me about the sort of rough patch that they're going through at the moment. They're dropping down the table. It's not great.
Yeah. No, it's really not great. And I think a lot of things are being painted over because we got this League Cup final coming up, and we're still in Europa. So it's given Mourinho a bit of, leeway in terms of, well, he's been brought in to win trophies. We all knew it wasn't going to be great to watch, but his job was to kind of get some trophies in the cabinet for Spurs, which has been a long time coming. And he's in a cup final. So it'd be crazy to sack him when you've got that coming up, because if you're going to want anyone in a final that could potentially win it, it'd be him. But I personally, I can't see us beating this Man City side because they're so good. Even their B team is probably stronger than ours. And I just feel like there's a complete lack of belief in Spurs at the minute. There's no confidence in what they're doing. There's no kind of camaraderie amongst the players. Mourinho just looks sort of unhappy in all his press conferences. So I feel like it's starting to look like the beginning of the end. But I think he's got a big couple of weeks coming up in Europa and some big Premier League games. And if he can pick up some results, the league is crazy, right? We were talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer getting a sacked, 3 months ago, and now he's second in the league, flying. And even Man City, you ripped them off at the start of the season, and they've been the best team by far. So it can turn around really quickly in football. But I think Spurs are struggling at the minute. Spurs
were top not that long ago, really, as well. Like, it is crazy.
Ridiculous.
It is crazy.
And I mean, I've talked about Spurs potentially winning the league, and I got a big load of egg on my face, and constantly get reminded of that on Talk Sport. But it's just one of them. They looked at the start of the season, they kind of bought into what they were trying to do. This defensive style, the bodies on the line, winning games, sort of 1-0, 2-0, and you're thinking, all right, this is the old Mourinho, what we sort of love to see. And kind of all of a sudden just started unraveling of, the lack of possession, the lack of chances, they're totally reliant on Harry Kane and Son, and then, the back four just all of a sudden started getting more and more shaky, conceding more and more goals. And then once the confidence goes and you're playing that way, it's really difficult to get out of it. I feel like lately they've tried to change the way they're playing and they're still getting beat. They went after it against West Ham, they went after it against Everton and still lost the game. So that to me says there's stuff going on there that we're not seeing, where there's just a complete lack of belief in the ideas of what they're trying to do.
Do you think that Mourinho is the right man for the job at Spurs? Obviously you say it's not the right time to talk about getting rid of him right now, but do you think longevity that he is for you personally?
It's not a longevity thing, is it? I mean, it never is with Mourinho. I mean, this is his first full season and he hasn't really been able to sign the players that he really wants because of, you talk about COVID or whatever like that, but he wanted centre-halves. He wanted to bring in some top centre-halves. Didn't get given that opportunity. It was kind of a bit of a shambles, the transfer policy, until we've signed Gareth Bale and Højbjerg, sort of late doors, and Reguilon come in. So then but Gareth Bale hasn't worked. It hasn't, doesn't seem to me like it's worked, even though he looked great at the weekend. But so far, you'd say it hasn't worked. I think you have to give him till the end of the season to see where Spurs end up, because obviously you're in Europa in the League Cup final. If if we end the season trophyless and we end up like mid-table like we are, that's, in my opinion, that's just unacceptable for where Spurs are now as a football club.
Well, you mentioned Gareth Bale there. It was a positive seeing him play quite well at the weekend. And
Yeah.
you don't think that it sort of worked with him there. Do you think that he's sort of just past his best now? Is that just sort of the situation with him?
Well, I think you saw at the weekend he's not past his best. He can still play at the top level, and you saw that against West Ham, who were flying. And I just think I've played with Gareth a little bit, and he's one of these players that need sort of an arm around his shoulder to kind of feel like he's the best player in the world. And I don't think Mourinho's give that to him. I don't think the manager has helped really with that situation, trying to get the best out of Bale. But the player as well has also got to produce, and he hasn't. I don't think he's played at the top of his game. He's lost a yard of pace. He's lost some sharpness. But, you're forgetting the fact that he was at Real Madrid for 2 years, like 2 seasons, hardly played and was always injured and completely demoralised leaving there. And the guy won 4 Champions Leagues for him. So that can knock your confidence as well. So I feel like he just hasn't really happened for him. But I don't feel like they've played him enough. They haven't gave him 4 or 5 games in a team. Starts, even if he plays for an hour, it's just that feeling of starting the game and having the confidence from the manager to say, we know you're not 100% fit, but we're going to play you anyway, and we're going to build you up. He plays 1 week, then don't play, comes on for 20 minutes, then don't play. You can never get into a rhythm of building your confidence when you're in and out of the side all the time.
Well, if we move on to Fulham, not great to talk about them either, but they're having a bit of struggle, and they did
all right
game this weekend, which they won, so that's good.
Yeah.
But they're obviously quite low down the table in the sort of relegation area. Yeah. It's not looking good. But what's your thoughts? Is that a position that you think they can get out of, or do you think that it's sort of it's not looking great?
Well, I think a month ago you would say they were written off, because they just weren't picking up results in terms of they draw a lot of games. But they seem to have been turning them into wins recently and picked up some decent results. And I think they play fantastic football. They've got a philosophy of how they want to do things. Scott's stuck with it. I think the start of the season killed them because they had to come up through the playoffs, and then they had like no pre-season. Didn't have any kind of real chance to bed in sort of the new players that you need to sign to play in the Premier League. So they kind of just had to go off the cuff and carry on playing the way that they did in the Championship. And, you can't do that. It's hard to survive like that. So I think now they've been able to sign some real decent players. They've got his kind of best 11 players that he really likes to play, and they're playing decent football. And I think because Newcastle was so poor in terms of the way they are going about things and the kind of, the cliff that they fell off at the moment, I just feel like Fulham have got a bit between their teeth where they actually think that they can catch them and they can get out of it. So when you've got that desire and that energy in your performances, which they've got, I mean, they're not far off it, And I think the next few weeks, I think you might see Fulham get out of the bottom 3. I really do.
Yeah, because I suppose it's been such a crazy season for every club. Every club has had good spells and then followed by terrible spells. So I guess that saying that probably in a previous season, you'd say, no, Fulham are probably stuck in that relegation battle. But now, with everything that's happening this season, you actually think, no, it's definitely possible that a team can, move a lot around the table.
Yeah, I mean, this season's crazy, right? I mean, the teams are all over the place in terms of... it's so enjoyable. It's great to watch. Don't get me wrong. There's been some classic games, and you're like, I mean, it's terrible as a pundit trying to predict games and talk about teams because you just look like an idiot most of the time because you can completely getting it wrong. But I think with Fulham, I just really feel like the start of the season killed them. They didn't have enough time to get their kind of group together of how they want it. But now you're seeing the real sort of Premier League quality that they're showing and the players that they've got. And I just think Newcastle have just lost all belief in terms of getting results and how they're going to get results. And I just feel like Fulham have got the bit between their teeth. So I really feel like they can get out of it. They've just got to keep them. They've got to keep going for it. Keep trying to get them wins. The draws have killed them a little bit. Too many draws they've had. But I think now they're in every game. You know, they're never getting beat 4-5-0. You know, like Newcastle get beat 4-5. You know, you don't really see Fulham get beat like that.
Well, just looking to the very top of the table, obviously we have to talk about Man City. Having a flyer at the moment, they are. I mean, I think they're like 10 points ahead. They can talk, but it's looking good for them at the moment. Are you surprised by that? And obviously to see Liverpool struggling at the moment, are you surprised by how it's looking at the moment?
Yes, I thought Liverpool would be a lot closer, even though they had terrible injuries. I did feel like they were going to be a lot closer than they are. I mean, I don't even know if Liverpool can make the top four, you know, like in terms of the way they're playing. And it just seems like their injury list has got so bad. And actually, it's got so bad, I kind of feel sorry for them because it's, you know, like I love Jurgen Klopp, but even he looks defeated this season, you know. But you can't get away from the fact that Man City have just been an absolutely different class. I mean, they demoralised teams. I actually said it last season. When we first had this kind of pandemic start and they're playing behind closed doors with no fans, I said Man City are the best team to play with no fans because they're just completely demoralise you with the way they move the ball, and you just, there's no sort of that energy from the fans to keep you going, to keep trying to get something from it. They'll just completely demoralise you. And then they lost a couple of games and I look like an idiot. But I think this season consistently that is what's happened, and that's why you've seen them go on this incredible, you know, 18 wins or something on the bounce, because they just suck the belief out of you. You know, they might not finish you off straight away, but after sort of 55, 60 minutes of you just not touching the ball and not creating any chances, and every time you get it, they're after you and they win it back and they keep it for another 2 or 3 minutes. It just gets demoralising, and I just think they've been so good with the way they do things. The signing of Diaz and John Stones coming back has been massive for them, keeping clean sheets, which was kind of the lifeline for a lot of teams. You know, sit in, camp in, we'll hit them on the counter attack because their back four shaky. They've totally eradicated that now, and I just don't think anyone can keep up with them this season.
Do you think that next weekend they're playing West Ham, who are doing brilliantly as well?
Yeah.
Do you think they're going to have any problems there?
No. I mean, I like West Ham. I think they've done great. David Moyes has done a brilliant job. Again, I said West Ham at the start of the season we're going to go down. So it's
than you would have thought.
And a lot of people agreed with me. You know, there was uproar about the signings. They weren't signing anyone. You know, the players that they were letting go, but they've been unbelievable in terms of the way they've found a way to get results. Souček for them has been brilliant. Kufal, you know, Antonio up front has been a revelation. So I think they're absolutely done brilliant. I just don't think they're got enough to challenge a team like Man City. I mean, they give them a game, but I don't think they're going to obviously make it too difficult for them. I don't think West Ham can get top four. I think they'll be there or thereabouts for European places, but I think top four for them's a big ask. And I don't even think David Moyes is even trying to push that, you know.
Another game, Spurs are taking on Burnley. Do you think that is a good game now for Spurs to try and push for a win?
I mean, Burnley's always a tough game, you know. No game in the Premier League is easy, you know. You play Sheffield United, who are dead and buried, and they're still in the game, you know. Like, it's still never going to be an easy fixture. So, I mean, you'd like to think that playing Burnley is a game where you think we can get a result, but Sean Dyche and all his team are so organised, so hard-working, and they will fancy themselves. They will genuinely fancy themselves, especially at this back four of Spurs at the minute, who you don't even know who's going to turn up, and you don't know what type of performance you're going to get. Now, they're going to go into that game with confidence, Burnley. So, I mean, it is a game we must win. I mean, it's getting embarrassing, really, seeing West Ham fourth, Arsenal, who would say have a terrible season in terms of they're so inconsistent, and they're right next to us in the table. So Spurs have kind of been a disgrace as well. But you know, they need to start picking up some consistency and some results for sure.
A topic that always is every week's getting brought up is VAR and the ruling around it, and the fact that decisions are a bit outrageous sometimes. What is
ridiculous.
Your view on the situation that's going on with that, and what sort of needs to change because no one seems happy with it?
I mean, the whole reason that people wanted VAR was because it was going to take away grey areas, right? You know, like there was going to be no grey areas. It was black or white. And the problem you've got in football and decisions is there's always grey areas with every decision you make, whether it's a penalty, whether it's, you know, offside or not. There's just always going to be a grey area. And then that was kind of the love of the game. Some decisions you got, some decisions you didn't. You know, like that was just the way football was. I feel like now we're just trying to perfect something that is not perfectible. You know, it's just like you just got to let the game play. It's the beautiful game. There's going to be good decisions. There's going to be bad decisions. Stop ruining it with stupid VAR moments and, you know, constantly. You know, you see the players now; they don't even celebrate properly because even the Jesse Lingard goal the other day. I mean, he's miles onside. It's a completely ridiculous thing to even, but the referee puts his flag up and you're like, what are you even putting your flag up for? Because they're even scared about getting decisions wrong. And they're thinking, oh, I'll put it up just in case because VAR will have a look at it. And you're like, it's just got ridiculous, you know? There's no point even having a ref anymore. It's just, I hate it. I hate it. It's completely, I think it's completely ruined, you know, the way the game's played. It's a different game we're playing now.
Do you think that it should completely go, or do you think that they need to try and sort the rules out, or do you think that you want to go back?
What it's done is exposed a lot of the rules of the game. Do you know what I mean? Like I've never seen so many rule changes in one season. You know, like I've never heard of this, and you know, I think it's just exposed a lot of the rules in football, which before no one ever knew. They just got on with it, and now it's kind of being exposed because of VAR, and I feel like if you're going to keep it, which I think they're going to, because it's a massive, billion-pound company that are involved in it now, and you can't just kind of get rid of it after one season. I think you have to get the rules right in terms of a clear picture of how we're doing things, not like changing the rules every week. The handball rule, the player coming back from offside is deemed onside if he's like all these rules that are just. What are you going on about? It's offside. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just they're just misinterpreting the rules all the time, and there's no common sense. There's no common sense in VAR. It's just letter of the law. This is what the book says, so this is what we're going to do. There needs to be some kind of common sense element to it.
Yeah, because it is changing, I think, the way that players will play. Because if they think, normally when defenders are trying to stop the ball or certain positions, they're not going to do certain things because they're just thinking, oh, well, there's no point because I will say that my arm was in the wrong place or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's no good. And also, I think I spoke to someone and they said if they were a striker, they deliberately just go for fouls and this and that because then they get penalties all the time.
Exactly. I mean, it's you can kick the ball against someone in the box. You see players doing it every time someone's now in and around the box, even if it's just a little touch that they'll go over, or you're thinking, oh, that VAR might give that. And that is just not what I think the game's about. There was the whole point of bringing in VAR was for to eradicate grey areas, like the goal line technology. There's no grey area; it's either in or it's out. The problem with VAR is they're so involved in everything that happens in the game that it's just always open to interpretation, and the rules of the game are just getting exposed. Really, they need to address it and just go, this is how we're doing it. These are the rules, and it won't be changed, but there will be a common sense sort of thing to it as well.
Bit of common sense, hopefully.
Yeah, which is
you never know.
Yeah.
Before we finish, Jamie, we always ask the players this question, so I'm going to ask you: who was the greatest player that you ever played alongside?
Oh, alongside, yes. I'd have to say Luke. Yeah, I'd have to say Luka Modric. I was lucky enough to play against play with some great players, Robbie Keane and Berbatov. But Luka Modric for me, was a standout kind of player. Was unbelievable on the ball. He's obviously gone on to win a Ballon d'Or. Got better when he went to Real Madrid, which I found hard to believe. It seems like you go to Real Madrid and you become better. But yeah, he was absolutely fantastic. Couldn't get the ball off him and had everything.
And so, as well as obviously they're on your team, who have you shared a pitch with that you think you just thought, wow, he's unbelievable? You just can't.
Yeah. Ronaldo. I mean, Ronaldo for me was on another player, like on another planet. I actually played against him a few times in a cup final. Played against him at Old Trafford as well. I played all right actually. He only scored 2 that day. But yeah, he had everything. You know, pace, power, jump. You know, he was good on the ball. You couldn't get near him. He was living in another world to everyone else in the Premier League at that era, and yeah, it probably, you know, arguments of him being the greatest player ever. You know, him and Messi, it's tough to pick between them.
Well, he's still sort of living in that. He's still absolutely killing it, isn't he?
I mean, you know, it's ridiculous, right? He's I don't know how old he is, but you know, I'm sat at home. You know, I've had, you know, loads of injuries, knee injuries, back problems. You know, can't even get on the peloton for half hour without blowing, and this guy's still scoring 25 goals a season. You know, he's just on another planet. He invested in his body and his health. He probably wasn't as gifted as Lionel Messi, but in terms of investing in yourself to be the pinnacle of fitness and, you know, power, there's no one. I mean, he's on another planet to everyone.
Definitely, yeah. It does goes to show a healthy lifestyle what it can do.
Exactly, and that's one thing I say. Like, I wish I invested more in you know, instead of going out buying Range Rovers and cars and giving it a big one, like going out, you putting gyms in your houses and putting, you know, like sleep things in your house where, you know, he's always at the pinnacle of his fitness. Because when it's gone and your body starts going, that's it. You've had it. It ain't coming back.
Jamie, thank you so much for joining me. It's been great talking to you.
Pleasure.
And hopefully get you back on again soon.
Yeah. All right. Take care.
Thank you.
All right.
Great to be joined there by Jamie O'Hara. But guys, make sure you stay tuned. We have lots more lined up for the show. Please do what you can to support the channel. Subscribe, like, leave some comments, share, whatever you can. We appreciate it. Stay tuned. Loads more coming. We'll see you next time.